Hello, Bree, and welcome.
Thank you, Roy. So nice to be here.
Same. Thank you very much for being here. And how are you today?
So good. I'm really
Oh,
excited to have this
wow.
chat.
That is a great answer. And where are you in the world with this fantastic accent that you have?
I'm Australian, so I live on the far south coast of New South Wales, about 4 hours south of Sydney. So if you know your geography, yeah, a couple of hours south in driving, and yeah, that's where I'm at.
Okay, well, I don't know my geography, yet it sounds, I've never been to Australia yet, so it sounds very lovely.
Mhm.
How's the weather
Yeah.
today?
It's a nice day today, actually. Yeah, we've been tempted with some rain coming, but it's a beautiful, sunny, warm day today, so it's great.
Fantastic. All right, Bree. So before we talk about your presentation, which sounds very interesting, maybe you can tell us a little bit about how you came upon hypnosis. How did it start for you?
Yeah, for sure. So, I started just realizing that I wanted to have a business in 2019. And I had a friend who was a coach already. So I realized that I was wanting to go down the coaching track, but I didn't really know how I was going to do that. I had a friend who was a coach already, and she had trained in NLP. And so I was like, okay, well, that's what I think I should do then. I should do NLP training. And so kind of just opened myself up to receiving information about that. I didn't like research it so much. I just was like, it'll come to me, I'm sure.
Okay.
And it did. So I had someone that I guess I started following from following someone else, and she was doing NLP training, but she was also doing hypnosis and tapping and life coaching all at once.
Okay.
So I ended up kind of going into it thinking, yep, I'm just going to do like NLP and everything else is really fun on top of everything else. Yeah, like it's going to be, a nice little cherry on top, right? And then through the training that we did and then the in-person like intensive that we did, I realized that it wasn't just the NLP that I enjoyed. It was like the hypnosis was really cool. I had never done it before. I'd never experienced it. Of course, I'd seen like the stage hypnosis sort of stuff and, even some of the Darren Brown things on
Yeah.
on TV shows where it kind of like he taps people's on the shoulder and like, gets them connected to him somehow. So there was some fascination, but yeah, I didn't really kind of know where I was headed with it. And then when I did the training, I realized actually this hypnosis stuff is really cool. And it meant that yeah, had my first experience through training, uh, having some really cool experiences with my colleagues that were training at the same time. And then I guess the rest is history. Playing with the modality and the concept with my first few clients, and then I did take a little bit of a break from it for a while and went down a whole different rabbit hole in business. And then in the last year or so, it was like, no, it needs to come back. I need to come back into this space and became more of a spiritual hypnotherapist from there.
Cool. And
Yeah.
what is if one of the things that you really like about hypnosis?
I think probably for me, it's the infinite potential or possibility that we realize is available to us when I guess the thing that I discovered when I was training was like firstly my brain just like blew up and became so much bigger with all of the information when I was training, and then it kind of made me realize that there's so much we don't know already, and then it became like what is possible for us, what's the potential for us, all of the subconscious, the way our brain works, the neural pathways and all of that is so fascinating to me. And so I think that like while it's not a science necessarily, there's like some science to how our brains work. And I think that that's really cool in terms of how we can approach, how we think about hypnosis within the layer as well of like now I'm doing a lot more in that spiritual space. There's so much beyond what we know. And that I think hypnosis can help us get there.
You said that there is some science about how the brain works, and I just want
Yeah.
to add that there might be people there out there listening to this and saying some science. Oh, we know how the brain works. Yet even
Yeah,
the biggest scientists still agree that the brain is a big, big mystery, and they
for
just keep
sure.
on discovering more things and more brains, as they call it.
Yeah.
And all those things are, we still don't know what we don't know. Hmm?
Yeah, exactly. Agreed.
Fantastic. So let's leave science aside for a moment. And
Yeah.
you mentioned the word spiritual hypnosis, and you also, it sounds like that's part of your life journey when you started to learn NLP. You're like, hey, whatever will come. And you know, so
Yeah.
it sounds like you have a very ethereal part in your personality. I don't know
Yeah.
if I'm
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, good. And you're going to give a very interesting presentation, which is called Beyond Regression, working
Mm.
hypnotically in the Akashic records or the Akashic
Yes.
field.
Yes. Same, same.
All right. I do not want to use my French, but what the F?
Yeah, and I think that's really cool that you say that because there'll be people that um will think that, and that's okay. Like, what are you on about, Bree? That's weird. But that's why I sort of said earlier that like I have the two minds about hypnosis. I have the analytical, like, science behind it and the traditional clinical space, as that's how I was trained. But in the last few years, I really went back to my spiritual kind of roots or awakening side of things. And in that, I realized there's so much more that we don't know about ourselves and the world. And when we are in hypnosis, when we're in a trance state, we have access to so much wisdom from within ourselves. But I also believe that we are able to access the universal consciousness. We are able to access information outside of our knowing. Like we know that there's a small amount of percentage of information that we can perceive at any one time. So what's happening with the rest of that? And I think that like when we're in a subconscious like state or a quietened mind state, and we can kind of let the conscious mind go away, then we can access other information, which could be depending on the level of spiritual kind of spirituality you connect to, could be um, your guides, spirit guides, record keepers, council of light, whatever you want to say, angels, who knows? If you're a spiritual minded person, that's maybe where you'll go to. If you're not so spiritually minded, then you're just going to know that it's internally, like it's your soul, your kind of like self, your higher self is what's
Mm.
guiding you. And it's really just like different people will have different lenses that they look at it, but the same information is available to us. We just need to be able to get into that space.
Okay.
And so, yeah, and so with when I say the Akashic field, it's sort of the same thing as, like soul, um, universal consciousness, the ether, the whatever we have going out around us that we can't see or sense, or we are sensing but we can't interpret. And being able to open our mind up to that space through trance is what I've been kind of exploring the last 6 months or so.
So first of all, thank you very much for sharing with us what you have explored. I think this is definitely a field that more and more people are interested in as
Yeah.
time passes. I have a question just to understand a bit better. is the point when you say working hypnotically, is it geared more towards the practitioners to get the knowledge and transfer, or for the practitioner to guide the subjects?
Yeah. So, what I teach and what I'll talk about in my session is the hypnotic approach being guiding your clients, your participants, to access their own wisdom, their own Akashic records and that information for themselves. Because traditionally, if you know anything about the Akashic record space, the Akashic record readers are essentially channeling information for their clients and
Right.
then relaying that information with their own, potentially their own filters and, lenses and biases that may stop some
Yeah.
information coming through properly. So being able to firstly empower your client to access that information for themselves is really, really like it's probably my favorite thing about doing it this way. But also making sure there's no misinterpretation of the information that's coming through. So yeah, that's sort of one approach. I am, we might go off on a little bit of a tangent here, but I am currently exploring what it could look like if um, the hypnotherapist acted more like the reader and read for someone else that couldn't
Okay.
maybe access their own subconscious. Because I'm actually, talking with someone at the moment who has that we're working on trying to get her access, and that is maybe another way to explore, what does your subconscious tell you about your client and what they need and all of that sort of stuff. So there,
Fantastic.
yeah, it could go both ways, but what I'm going to be talking about is for the hypnotherapist to be the guide.
Great. And then
Yeah.
next year, you'll talk about, in the next Hypnotic
Yes,
Horizon conference, you'll talk about how we utilize that as a
exactly.
facilitator. Fantastic. See yourself booked already.
Yep. Tick.
Uh,
Tick.
Tick. Fantastic. Well, is there anything else that you would like people to take from your session?
Well, I don't know so much take from the session, but before they decide not to attend, because there might be some people that are like, too woo for
Okay.
me, way too woo woo, not going there. Have a little bit, try and have an open mind with a different way to approach because I know that not everyone is going to be spiritually minded, but your client might be, and they may be accessing information in your sessions which you're not quite sure how to respond to because your mindset is that doesn't exist or that,
Yeah.
that's not possible. And that might cause your client to go to someone else. And also it might cause, some misinterpretation of the information. So even if you're coming at it from like what could go wrong potentially like come into that session is like what could happen if my client is really spiritually open and starts channeling all this stuff and goes down strange rabbit holes. How do I kind of support them with that is also what I will be talking about as well.
It reminds me, I used to have a client. She was a channeler.
Yeah,
And at that time, I was, let's say, by far more analytically minded.
yeah,
And she used to come to sessions and she said, okay, I just need you to put me in that place. I'll do the rest of the work myself. That's it.
yeah.
So I would just
Yeah,
like trance her, sit there, wait, 40 minutes later, she comes back. Oh, thank you so much. And see you next week. You're welcome. No
yeah,
clue what she was doing, yet that's what she wanted to do. So,
yeah,
absolutely, I agree with you. People, I think that this is regardless whether you believe it or not. You don't have to believe something for that thing to exist. Back in the
yeah,
days, people said, hey, we can't see bacteria, they don't exist, right? And it sounds like you're going to talk about something very unique and you won't be able to get that information anywhere else. So might as well
Mm,
just come and listen and
yeah,
see what happens. Open up your
absolutely.
awareness, bring something new into your life. Afterwards, if you don't want to take it, it's okay.
Mm.
I think it can be extremely important to listen. I will be there.
Amazing.
And I'm waiting to see you
Yeah,
with us
thank
April
you.
25, 26. Bree, thank you so much for this
You're so
fantastic
welcome. Thank
glimpse
you.
and have a good time until then.
Thank you. You too. Wishing you all the best with it.
Thank you.